Stephen A. and Mad Dog erupt on LeBron's Michael Jordan GOAT, take total disrespect.
Address the comparisons often made between him and one and only Michael Jordan. And he said this, quote, "There are a lot of things that MJ did better than I do. And I think there are some things that I do better than him. That's just how the game goes. There's a lot of things that I can say in particular. You already know how this conversation is going to be misinterpreted by people, man." And then McManaman asked, has it been a burden as an adult, that ambition? Because now everybody brings it up. You can't escape the comparison. To which LeBron responded by saying, quote, "No, I think it's a very tiring conversation. It's barbershop talk. You can look at both of us and say that you love both of us without trying to shh on the other person. And usually it's the shh on me. But I know for sure that I've done my part in this journey. And more than anything, I hope, and I don't know, but I hope I made him proud at least wearing that number 23. End quote. Okay. So when LeBron speaks on the matter, then we have to have the discussion here, Stephen A. What are your thoughts on what LeBron had to say about himself and Michael Jordan?
I came across, and I think that it's relatively disappointing. And I want Mike Wilbon and Doggy, two historians, people that I look up to. So I want to say this directly in front of them, and I'm open to the discussion. Everything that LeBron James said is right on point. When he dissected the difference between his game, Michael Jordan, how he looked at things, how he approaches the game. He looked to pass first, Michael Jordan looked to shoot first, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are accurate. I didn't have a single syllable that he uttered until the last line, when he talked about you can look at two guys without, for the purpose of shitting on somebody. But obviously it's usually somebody doing that to me. That is where the problem lies. Because what we don't talk about enough, Wilbon and Doggy, is as great as LeBron James is and how much he deserves to be celebrated, we don't talk about what he has done to hurt, not the game, but narratives associated with the game because of how he responds to it. I looked it up, Wilbon and Doggy. Do y'all know that there have been over 5,400 players in NBA history that have played in the NBA? Put Wilbon and Doggy up on the screen, please. I want to see them. 5,400 plus players in the NBA. I have LeBron James as number 2 all time. We're talking about Russell. We're talking about Kareem. We're talking about Wilt. We're talking about Kobe. We're talking about Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson and all these people. The man number 2. In his world, that's an insult. That is how he has acted with so many people along the way. But he doesn't do it directly, as you know, Wilbon, and as you should know, Doggy. Oh, no. Other people do it for him. I remember years ago when I'm sitting there joking around with Rich Paul, and I'm like, y'all act like that's an insult. Seriously, with a serious face, Rich Paul looks me in the face. It is an insult. What? That is the problem. And so what happens is they've given the impression that I'll use the word poop for FCC airwaves now. That we're pooping on players, okay? We're talking about them. What do we do to today's players that wasn't done before? I understand the advent of social media and beyond, and that everybody has a voice and everybody has a podcast and everybody got something to say. But in terms of the actual narratives, who hasn't gone through it?
Around the 5-minute mark, the argument sharpens into a broader critique. Comparing players isn't disrespect, it's tradition. The reference to legends like Magic Johnson and Wilt Chamberlain reinforces the idea that every all-time great has been scrutinized, criticized, and ranked. The key point here is that being part of these debates is itself a form of recognition. The tension arises when LeBron James is perceived as resisting that process, reframing comparison as negativity rather than as a natural part of greatness.
You tell me the player, Wilbon, you've been coaching, you've been covering the NBA for 40 years. You tell me, Doggy, Hall of Fame radio host for 40 years. You tell me what has been said about today's players that wasn't said about dudes in the past in terms of their on-court performance. We always compared. We always put one above the other. We talked about Isaiah Thomas. Isn't he one of the greatest point guards to have ever lived? Didn't we bring up Nate Tiny Archibald? Didn't we bring up Bob Cousy? Didn't we later bring up the Allen Iversons of the world? Haven't we brought up Magic Johnson? Didn't we bring up John Stockton? Didn't we bring up, name after name, shoot guards, Elgin Bell, Oscar Robertson, all of these people. Jerry West was the silhouette. Didn't we bring up the fact that he had one title in 9 tries? We've done it to everybody. Didn't we bring up the turnovers with Magic Johnson in the finals against Boston, where he cried like a baby in the shower, Wilbon, which you know better than most. It broke his heart, and how he was determined to come back and got him not once but 2 more times. Didn't we talk about that? The great Wilt Chamberlain. Didn't we say he quit during an NBA Finals appearance? But somehow, some way, all of these generations of players embraced and accepted it's talk, it's basketball talk, and it's reserved for the great ones. So we can debate it, but there's no doubt if your name is in the conversation, it's because you're an all-time great. But when it comes to LeBron James, oh no, you pooping on a player. You dogging them. It's the negativity. It's what's happened to the game. And instead of appreciating how he is revered, how much we'll miss him when he's gone, how we cannot deny that this man belongs on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. My career wouldn't be what it is if it were not for people like him. Yours wouldn't either. Yours wouldn't either, Doggy or Wilbon. None of us. They helped us be who we are. But we're talking about it, and when we talk about it and we compare, oh, we're dogging them. And you've fostered that mentality to the modern day players in such a way that the heightened level of sensitivity has regressed to a point of embarrassment where we're literally looking at grown men who are elite, prestigious. We look at them, we admire, damn it, we wish we were them, at least physically and in terms of their capabilities, because we know they are things that we could never hope to be. We talk about it, we celebrate it, we debate it, we revere them, we big up them, we prop them, all of it. And none of it matters because how dare you compare? That is what LeBron James does when he brings out the part of us pooping and diminishing the players. He takes it that way, but then he leaves it to others to speak on it instead of owning it himself. You have a conversation, and that's all it would take. I'll say this last part. All of that stuff that happens with he and I'm not rooting against him. I'm a grown man. Wilbon is my big brother. Wilbon talked to me many, many times. You understand? I got it. I wish that man nothing but the best. I'm looking forward to celebrating him tonight. Bronny's looking good. Got a lot of potential. I'm really happy for him. Truly, truly am. But all the stuff that happened is because of that narrative right there. And LeBron James confirmed it yet again. His heightened level of sensitivity attaches an angst and a negativity to it that isn't there. He's on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. He never hears that. Instead, he hears that, oh, he's not the GOAT. And because of that, it's insulting to him. That is what the problem is with him and a lot of the modern day players who are so anxious to support him instead of listening to what we're actually saying.
Stephen A., the thing is, that's not particular just to basketball. That's the culture we live in now.
Okay.
Popular music, entertainment, hating on.
The discussion ultimately centers on the contrast between acknowledgement and perception. LeBron James openly recognizes Michael Jordan's superiority in certain areas while asserting his own strengths, which is a balanced and fair perspective. However, the reaction from analysts suggests that the issue is less about what he says and more about how the narrative around him is shaped and received. A recurring theme is that greatness invites comparison. Legends across eras, from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to Kobe Bryant, have all been placed under the same microscope. The expectation is that elite players accept this as part of their legacy. From this viewpoint, resistance to comparison is interpreted not as humility, but as discomfort with not being universally considered the greatest. Another critical layer is the role of external voices. Figures like Rich Paul and media narratives amplify the sensitivity around rankings, creating the impression that anything short of calling LeBron the greatest is an insult. This dynamic shifts the conversation from objective analysis to emotional defense, complicating what should be a straightforward debate about basketball merit. In the end, the conversation reveals more about modern sports culture than about the players themselves. The debate between Jordan and LeBron has become symbolic, less about definitive answers and more about identity, era, and perspective. What remains undeniable is that both belong at the very top of basketball history, and the intensity of the debate only reinforces their impact on the game.